With so many wines to choose from, getting something special can seem daunting. Whether you enjoy whites or your reds, on this Advencha we head to this boutique vineyard that doesn't cut corners, making this San Clemente family's wine hand-picked, handmade, one barrel at a time.
Winemakers have different styles. Well, that's kind of my style. That's the way I decided I like to do it. So that's what I do. And me being the boss, I get to do it the way I want to do it. So. My name is Matt Sherman, and I'm the owner and winemaker here at Myrtle Creek Vineyards. Grandma came up with the name a long time ago, back before the winery and even the nursery existed. There's a creek that runs through the property, and she thought it looked like Myrtle Creek, Oregon, and the name stuck. My dad, at the time we were doing avocados and citrus, and my dad called the place Myrtle Creek Ranch. My family's involved in a number of ways. My kids come here and work. They really hate doing bird netting, but they're tall, so they're good at it. So they do that for me. They do some pruning, things like that. My dad also does quite a bit of pruning. He's always kind of been the farmer at heart, so he really enjoys getting out there. He's 80 now, but he still gets out there every day, a couple hours, so he gets some work in. My wife, she helps with the social media and the accounting and keeping me in control. So we're all here.
This land has been in the family for quite some time. We passed by Grandma and Grandpa's house as Matt and his son Zane walk us to the vineyard.
The grapes we grow here are Syrah, Grenache, Sangiovese. We grow a little bit of Merlot, a little bit of Mourvedre. And then as far as whites go, we have Sauvignon Blanc and Viognier. Fallbrook is perfect for grapes. We have great soil. It's DG, it's decomposed granite. It doesn't have a ton of organic matter, but it does have a lot of mineral content, which the grapes seem to really like, and creates good flavors. We also, being in the foothills here, have a pretty good coastal influence, which helps. Most of you hear probably about Temecula, but Temecula is much hotter in the summertime and much cooler in the winter. But we have a little more of a stable coastal influence, which I think makes for better grapes, but that's just me.
My duties, well, mostly it's bird netting. That's super exciting. I get to put nets on the vines and then off the vines. It does take a long time, hard work. My actual favorite duty would probably have to be some of the lab work. He does let me do like some tests in the lab, and I want to be a chemistry major, so it kind of helps out with that. And driving the tractor through is fun. Just mowing all the rows, because we don't use many really pesticides at all. We try to keep it clean, and that's basically what I do here.
Our winery's been operating since about 2017. It was September 2017 that we actually opened the tasting room here. I'd been making wine since 2012, and that's when we planted the first round of grapes here. So that gave me some time to, figure out what I was doing, make my mistakes, and get it right before we actually started selling wine. So it was my 2014 vintage was probably the first vintage that I was comfortable enough that this is good enough to sell. And that's what we opened up with the tasting room with. And I'm happy to say that vintage is all gone. We are on 16 and 17 now. Our vineyard special, I think, just because it's small. We don't do any, it's not giant, large production. We're involved in everything. I'm involved in the farming end of it, the winemaking end of it. Everything gets personal attention. Everything's, hand done. There's not a whole lot of mechanization going on here except for a tractor with a mower. We're hand pruning, hand picking. We basically, like our motto says, we make wine one barrel at a time, and that's the truth. Come on in, see how it's done.
The Shermans take us inside the winery. The small barn-like building is home to not only a tasting room, but houses the machinery that processes, ferments, stores, and bottles the wine.
Okay, harvest starts usually late September, mid-September, somewhere in there, and we'll go for about 2 months, so we're usually going into November. At the moment, it's all done. but I'll kind of give you a quick run through on kind of the basic procedures on how we process grapes here. All the fruit comes in from that back door. I have a scale back there, so we weigh it all before it comes in, so we know how much fruit we're bringing in. All the grapes are thrown into, this is our crusher destemmer. They're all thrown in here by hand, so all the clusters go through somebody's hand. So at that point, you know, we toss any of the clusters we don't like, anything that doesn't look right. So everything is hand sorted. They go in, the fruit goes in here, stems come out this side, the fruit comes out the pump on this side, and we'll pump it into either a bin or a tank for fermentation. So at that point, if we're doing a red wine, we'll put it in a bin, and I actually have big cooling plates. We can control the temperature of the fruit. We'll actually cool it down and let it soak for a number of days. At that point, fermentation will kind of start on its own. So at that point, I'll actually hit it with a commercial yeast, you know, a yeast I want to use to give it the certain flavors I want it to have. So we'll let the native yeast go for a little while, then we hit it with ours. And we use different yeast for all the different varieties. So yeah, we probably use about 8 or 10 different yeasts throughout the season. Fermentation is going to take 7 to 10 days. And the reds, you know, so yeah, you're fermenting skins and the seeds are in there and everything's in there. And it's floating and putting off lots of CO2 gas. It's kind of cool. Then once fermentation is complete with the reds, they go into the press. So inside this press, there's a big giant, basically like an inner tube, big rubber inner tube in there that we fill with water. And it'll expand and push the grapes against this screen, and the juice comes down into this tray. Actually, at this point, it's actually wine because it's done fermenting. Comes down into this tray, and there's a hole on this side, and then we can pump it into a tank. Then we go into barrels, and in the barrels, it'll sit for about anywhere. Typically, most reds are going to sit in there about 18 months to 2 years. And then after that, we bottle. Now, whites are different in the fact that with white grapes, we will go into the crusher destemmer again, but instead of going to a bin to ferment, we pump it right into the press and just press out the juice. So when we're fermenting whites, or say we're doing rosé, we do rosé too, you're just fermenting juice, no skins. So that's why it's crisper, cleaner, a clearer color, all comes from that. So at that point, we'll put it in a tank and we'll start fermenting it in the tank. So those ones, you know, will ferment like at 50 degrees or less. So we keep them much cooler during the whole ferment. We want them to go really slow. And that's why, because with the whites and the rosés, they have really delicate kind of noses. You can get floral smells out of them. It's because we do this really slow ferment. But we use a special cork I can show you. I don't have one right here. Let me grab one real quick. It's natural cork, but it's man-made per se. What they call a 1+1 or a technical cork. This one's used, but basically it has a natural cork disc on both sides. So it's a regular cork, and then in the middle it's just ground up cork pressed together. It's like, you know, particle board cork. What I found is that these seal really nicely. They don't give you any of that cork paint and the leakage. So I've opted to go with these. I've used, you know, natural grade A corks and had more trouble with those. And they're more expensive too, and we have more trouble with them. These ones are a little bit cheaper, but I think they work.
Hi, my name's Carla. Come on down to Myrtle Creek. We've got some lovely wines for you to enjoy.
We do offer tastings here on Saturday and Sundays from noon to 5. We also do real small events. We do wine and cheese pairing, which is really fun. There's a local woman from Ramona who makes her own cheeses, and she does them up real nice, and we do pairings with our wine and her cheese. There's a local baker in town baking it up. She does scones. We're also available during the week called Head. I'm usually here working, so if you let me know, you can come, I'm all open for you. We really care about what we do here. We have a passion for making wine. We love doing it. You know, a lot of care goes into it. We don't cut corners. We don't add a bunch of stuff that we don't have to. Like our motto says, hand-picked, handcrafted, you know, make one barrel at a time. Yeah, just know that our heart's in it. actually, the more, if you could not filter and not fine and do all that, you'd actually have more flavor in your whites and your rosés. But nobody wants a cloudy wine. It's a cosmetic thing. So it's all in the looks.
I actually thought your favorite job was going to be wine tasting. No?
No, not
Okay.
really. Not into it.
You can really tell it's a family affair at Myrtle Creek Winery. It may have been the awesome hospitality that the Sherman show you, or it may just be the way each barrel is handcrafted, but this was some of the tastiest wine I've ever had. Being just 4 minutes west of the 15 freeway, this vineyard is proving to be one of Fallbrook's must-see spots. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this Advencha. If you like what you see, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next episode. As always, links in the description for more info on this vineyard, and until next time, bye-bye!